Step 5 for partners of sex addicts. This is a big step. I know we've covered a lot of ground. We've gone through steps 1 through 4. But now we're on step 5 for partners of sex addicts. So this is going to be a very helpful conversation. So I do want you to stay tuned. Now, if you have yet to subscribe, we've got more steps and other stuff and lots of stuff for partners of sex addicts on our YouTube channel. So please subscribe. That way you can get notified when new things come out, because we're always sending out more information and more help for partners of sex addicts for sure. So subscribe, and then go ahead and if you have a question, write it in there. I get to those as soon as I possibly can. We love hearing from you. So stay tuned. Step 5 for partners of sex addicts. Now, this is huge. If you've done step 4 and you've written down you're good, you're bad, you're ugly, and you got pages of notes, a lot of ladies who work on this work very, very diligently and very, very hard on their step 4. But then there's step 5. You've done the digging. You've got your inventory. It's all written down. Now, what do you do with this thing? Well, there's 3 things that you do with this thing. I want to walk through. So let me read step 5, and then I want to parse it out and go through it. Admit it to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Now, this is a huge, huge process. And sometimes people actually read this step as if it says, admit it to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. And they actually forget the first 2. Now, I've been counseling people and utilizing the 12 steps, and I've personally gone through the 12 steps on more than one occasion. And I find that the wisdom in the steps is actually reading what the step says, not glossing over it or thinking you know what it says. You know, men are very capable of doing that. They just kind of read the first couple words, I've got it, honey, right? But sometimes I find women too will sometimes not take the time to actually read what it's saying. Admitting is exactly that. It is the verbal acknowledgement. Okay, admitting doesn't happen inside your head. If I've done something wrong, I need to admit to that person or whoever verbally. It's a verbal process. It's not an internal process. It's not a meditation process. It's not a process of, I can do this by myself at all. Actually, this is really, in the earlier steps, you turn your life from care over to care of God, right? But as far as moving towards another person, involving another person, this step is really your first venture in a very big way to trust again, to trust other people. And what I love about the 12 steps, and that inherently the way they're created is they move us possibly from mistrust. I mean, your husband's lied to you. You've been hurt. You've been injured by people. You might have been abused, neglected, or raped. There's all kinds of reasons why you might have mistrust as a woman to other women or to men or to everybody. And if you struggle with that, definitely get the Partner Betrayal Trauma book, because they talk about that struggle. And if you choose to stay in mistrust, you are going to hurt your life and everyone around you. So this step is huge because it can move you toward trust. It can move you towards that. So admitting is a verbal process. So the first one is to admit to God. Now, God was there when the good stuff happened to you. He was there when the bad stuff has happened to you. You know, he was there when your husband got caught or disclosed to you. He was there in the situations where choices that you've made or others made, regardless of you, that impacted your life. He was there when the ugly things happened to you, the things that you have nothing to do with, but they still impacted you. He was there. So why do we admit it? Because you need to admit it. You need to talk to God. Now, you turned your life and will over to God. So by now, that was step 3. You and God should be getting on terms where it feels more like a friendship and a relationship or a fathership than some kind of mysterious, weird thing. So having a talk to God, that is what we're going to do. we're going to admit to God. So what I'd like you to do is, and if you have your partner's step book, the Beyond Love, the 12 steps, definitely use all that. But take this and sit down. And, if you want to sit with an empty chair, that's fine. If you just want to sit on your favorite sofa and say, God, or, I live in Colorado. A lot of people do this stuff out in the woods. They find a rock or a pond and they sit there. Whatever is a sacred place for you, maybe you and God have a spot where you and him have coffee, whatever it is for you, that's fantastic. If it's a church or a sanctuary or a synagogue, whatever it is for you, if it's a sacred place, maybe go there and open your notebook up and go through the step with God. Verbally, read it out loud. You will be amazed at how much relief that can be, but also revelation as you're going through this. And I think there's a good reason why the step is written in exactly the order it is. First, you're talking to God. He's totally safe, right? So he's listening to you, and you're actually learning as you're sharing this, and you're seeing your life, the whole course of your life. And you can pick up some themes that you didn't pick up while you were writing it, but as you're speaking it, it's like, wow, I didn't see that pattern. I can tell you, I've worked with thousands of partners of sex addicts, probably over 5,000 over 35 years. And the insights they get in step 5 can be massive, life-changing stuff. Not in the writing process, they know that. But somehow in the speaking process, as they go through these 3 people, they begin to put some things together that they've never put together before. And it's the kind of stuff that kind of changes their life. It's like, it connects to something. And it's like, oh, now I see how those decisions were made. Now I see why I put up with that. Now I see how that happened to me. And they begin to see some things. So please do not ignore God. Sit down, have a conversation, and do that part of this step. This is a 3-part step. You admit to God, that's number 1, and you haven't done step 5 until you've done all 3. If all you've done is talk to your sponsor, you haven't done all of step 5. So the second person, admit to God, to ourselves. Now that's a separate person. That's you. And you're beautiful, and you're an amazing, gracious woman. You've been through some stuff, some painful stuff. But you need to have a conversation because you exist. So now I really like if you could sit down and just kind of do this out loud, but I really like when you get an empty chair. Maybe get 2 of your kitchen chairs or 2 of your living room chairs and just sit them, facing each other and say, you know what, Julie, let's talk about this. Let me go through my step with you and just talk out loud. Admitting is verbal, it's out loud, and just talk and let it out. And as you go through this part of the step, again, you will hear some things even differently than when you were talking to God. Now, some people have some fun with this, and actually when they're done, they actually go to the other side, the other chair, and they give feedback to that. And they go, wow, Judy, you are strong. To go through all that, you're really courageous. To love again after that, you really are incredibly spirited. You've been beat up on a couple of things, and you and I know what those are, and I appreciate you sharing. And they actually go in the other chair and talk back. That's a fabulous way to do it, and if you have the time, I would strongly encourage you sit in a chair, talk to a chair, and then switch, and then give yourself some feedback. You will actually be speaking life to yourself in a very vulnerable moment. So that's how I encourage you to do it. You'll do it as you wish, but that's how I encourage you to do it. Share it with the empty chair, do it, and then switch. And make sure your doors are locked, no one's home, you're going to have a couple hours so that you can really let this out, because you could have some real feelings. And that's beautiful. You're being restored to the woman that you were before all this trauma and hurt and pain. You're being restored to that joyful lady who could laugh, who could trust, who wasn't afraid of the world, who played in the world and didn't have to compete with other women, but complimented the other women. Allowed other women to be beautiful, allowed yourself to be beautiful. That's where you're going back to. This step is huge. Now, I will say the next person is by far the biggest step. And to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. So now you're taking your 5th step. Hopefully you've done it in a Beyond Love workbook or the Partner Betrayal Trauma workbook. There's a step book for them as well. And you are going to sit down with probably your sponsor. If you don't have a sponsor, you're not in a telephone group or you're not in a partners group, strongly encourage you getting one. Strongly encourage that. Please, that's the best thing for you. Someone who's in this program could help you, or you can choose a counselor. One of our counselors here in our building or at the ASAT.org website, AASAT.org. Those counselors are very qualified. Make sure it says Partner Betrayal Trauma certified, so they know what you're doing and they know who you are, and they've been trained to do that. So that's another way that you can do it. And you also know that everything's going to be confidential. If you're paying for a counseling session, it is confidential. We have coaches as well that could do this for you and with you. If not, maybe find a religious leader that you really trust. I would not suggest it's your best friend or your family member, because friends and family, they can change over time, and that's really sensitive. So be really wise with who you're going to share your heart with, but do it. Don't put it off. Find the person, set a date, make sure you have 2 or 3 hours, because now you've gone through this process twice. You know how long it took you to share it with God. You know how long it took you to share it with yourself. So you kind of know how long this is going to take you to do that. Now, the other person doesn't have to give you feedback, is not responsible to tell you anything. What they're responsible to do is to hear your story. Now, I can tell you when I did my step 5, I found, I was in seminary, and there was a guy who was a therapist. I thought, well, I'm going to see him because he's in the sex recovery. I'm going to tell him because he understands sexual addiction. So I went and I did my whole story. I remember going up to his office and I went to pay him. He said, no. Hey, you're a brother. This is step 5 is kind of a very sacred thing, what you did. So no, that's not, you can't pay me for this. I was like, wow, that was really loving. And I can tell you what broke in me is the whole thing that if you really knew me, you wouldn't love me. And it really, I thought, well, okay, that's really powerful. So I thought, wow, I'm going to have this big, powerful experience with step 5. And I'm walking down the steps in the office building, and I get in my car and I'm like, I thought it was going to have more zip to it, right? I get in my car and I go up to the stop sign, and all of a sudden, literally, it was like a flood just went through my entire being. It's like something was washed out. All the lies of like, if you really knew me, you wouldn't love me. All the secrets were gone. I was never ashamed since that day to this. I don't carry shame, because once you get rid of your secrets, you have no shame. And so if you struggle with that, be brutally honest in your step and tell exactly what happened or you did. Even if that includes abortions or sex with people you're not proud of or things you've done, you definitely want to get that done. And when that shame left, it was so powerful. I literally pulled over and there was a field across the street. And I was jumping around and I was thanking God. I was so happy. And I can literally see that moment still in my mind. You may not have that experience, but what I'm telling you is your life will be different. Do not avoid step 5, but don't avoid all 3. Talk to God, talk to yourself, talk to another human being. The exact story that you have, it's your story, okay? You are on your way to recovery. Please honor yourself, do this as soon as possible, and make the progress that you can. Generally, it takes about a month to do a step, if that. So you want to work hard, work aggressively, and get this done. So if you're a partner of a sex addict, you know that I care about you. I've dedicated my life to you and helping you. We have so many resources that you can access to heal and to get your life back. We even have, in the counseling center, we even have neuromodulation to help your brain to get through the trauma that you've been through. There's a lot of help and healing for your body and for your soul and for your life. So please do this. And if you haven't subscribed, please hit that button, subscribe. We want to see you go through the rest of the steps with us. And also, there's lots of other stuff. If you have a question, please put it in the box. We would love to hear from you. We respond as quick as we can. And I'm really encourage you, if you're getting through this and you're in step 5, I just want to say, I am proud of you.